The sad truth is that you won't get there if you lie to yourself. If you don't believe that you can get there, you probably won't. I'm Leah, I am a company repair expert, and I just love how well this has been set up in that conversation from revelation to truth to rest and to repair. Abigail, you stole my breathing exercise, which I will come in time to forgive you for, but I just wonder, I've got 3 questions, I've got 3 lies and 3 truths, and I'm going to start by asking you, what is the one thing that would make you feel differently about yourself than you do right now? I want you to sit with that, and as you do, breathe in slowly and breathe out. And as you breathe in again, is there anything that comes to mind that would make you feel differently about yourself? My second question is, where are you in your career, in your relationships, and in your health? I don't want you to judge yourself for where you're not. I'm not asking where your last invoice places you amongst your peers. I'm not even asking you what your LinkedIn bio says about you. I just want to know where you think you actually are today, in this body, in this vocation, and in this life. Because my last question is, I wonder if you can pinpoint where you're trying to go. Do you know where the destination is that would make you feel like you've arrived? Because that's what we're going to be talking about now. So this time last year, I found myself at a beautiful winery in Somerset. It's called Thorn Falcon. If you haven't been, I highly recommend booking in because there's a footpath leading to an expansive wild swimming lake, on the edge of which there is a pontoon, and opposite a wood-fired sauna and a hot tub. Now, Condé Nast describes this particular lake as being shared with swans, something the locals call the Loch Ness otter, and formidable carp. Now, in the middle of the lake, there was a raised bed, and the swans had congregated there to protect their young. The mother perched, and the father patrolled. You see, the problem was that my friends wanted to cool off from the sauna in the lake, and the male swan was having none of it. At one point, he made a beeline diagonally across the water directly at us, and it was not the first time I'd seen a swan, but it was the first time I'd been eye to eye with one, and in its space. And I can tell you for free, you can excuse a father for wanting to protect his progeny, but that swan needed to take a diazepam. The point I'm making is that a swan is not a metaphor for perfection, but it is a symbol for serenity. And when it presents differently, that creates a juxtaposition that's uncomfortable. And so we're going to use this picture of a swan as a metaphor for what we're becoming, fully and without apology. In fact, realizing that it's what you always were. Now, a swan doesn't arrive fully formed. She starts as a cygnet, young, ungainly, not yet grown into herself, surrounded by noise and water and the chaos of things she hasn't yet learned to embrace. But then something happens. Life happens, romance happens, leadership happens. Waters get choppy, noises get louder, and she starts to paddle, voluntarily, frantically, invisibly, exhaustingly. Because when you look sideways at every other bird on the water and decide that the speed of their movement is a measure of your own, when you absorb the chaos as if it belongs to you, and someone else's panic around you becomes your own, you find yourself in difficult territory. So what do we do as women when we're in that situation? We paddle harder. And so as we glide along the water, it gets harder and harder to maintain our momentum. And we get so busy keeping up with what we can see around us, who we can see around us, that we forget something essential. That is not what we are becoming. We are supposed to be becoming a swan. We're not trying to perform. We're not trying to live in a world where waters aren't choppy or conditions aren't difficult. We're trying to learn to back ourselves with that kind of fixed determination that knows that it takes as long as it takes, and the destination doesn't move just because we're not getting there fast enough. And so just as swans can't rush cygnets from hatchling to growth, we cannot rush the journey that we are on. Growth, challenge, achievement, and the shedding of what no longer serves you. It has its own timeline, it always has, and it always will. But as women, we've fallen into the trap of traditional leadership. It tells us that paddling is the price to get to the destination, that the frantic effort is how you are defined as successful. I know this because I trained as a corporate M&A lawyer for many, many years. But what if that's the lie? Because there's something that happens when we paddle too hard for too long. We learn to hide from ourselves. We keep up appearances that we can't keep indefinitely. We develop coping mechanisms that help us survive chaos, and then one day those coping mechanisms fail us. The frazzled swan isn't failing. She's one who keeps up appearances for so long that she's forgotten what it feels like to glide. Now, many of you might have watched the famous series The Affair, and there's a scene in it between one woman and her sister-in-law, where Helen is her name, says to Alison, "You've been telling yourself the same story for a long time, but what if you change the narrative? You have agency in your life." And Alison responds to her, "That's insane." But Helen replies, "I know, but also it's probably true." The stories we tell ourselves are the reason that our feet don't stop moving. They're representative of lies that we've inherited, lies we've absorbed so early on and so completely that we stop noticing that they are there. Those lies are what cost us everything. I know this because I'm a business owner, and last year I reached a point where I'd been telling myself the same story for such a long time that I didn't even notice that I was doing it every day. I had to learn to tell myself a different story. Female energy gives us permission to disrupt this cycle, not by being louder or more aggressive, or in fact, more anything at all. It allows us to refuse to pretend that chaos isn't around us. It allows us to understand that real empathy, that kindness that holds space for somebody else's breakdown. Kindness that starts with giving you permission to face yourself honestly. Which means you have to get comfortable with the unknown unknowns that surface when you're doing the work. The moment everything screams retreat and you have to hold your nerve anyway. When you're dealing with cash flow that feels more elastic than a rubber band. And losing the motivation that all but snaps back with it. We're all familiar with that adage, what got you here won't get you where you're trying to go. So don't feel stuck. You're not stuck. You just need to know which lies have a hold on you so that you can embody what I call swan life. So the first lie is this: I'm not good enough. That might be to have this role, to be in this position, or to be the person I'm becoming. It sits with you in the meeting you weren't sure you should be in. It whispers when someone more senior walks in the room. It helps you question every decision you make before you've even made it. It's insecurity dressed up as self-awareness, and it's costing you everything. I ditched my CEO title because I didn't care, my team didn't care, and I can tell you for free, my clients didn't care either. But the point is that if there's something on a day-to-day basis that isn't serving you, just let it go. Because we're quick to shame ourselves into thinking we aren't enough. We all have to start somewhere, but our identity isn't in our job title. In the same way, it's not in our relationship status, it's not in our reproductive history, and it's definitely not in our last paycheck. You might need more support, you might need a hug, or a nap, or maybe some food, but you do have to get over it and get on with it, because your future you will thank you. The second lie is, I'm never going to get there. This is the lie of exhaustion, the hustle that deceives us into thinking we're never going to arrive. Sometimes the pivot doesn't land. Sometimes the client doesn't convert. And maybe you're learning and changing at such a rate that you don't even know where you are. You might falter. You might strike gold. But in the middle of that cycle, the lie whispers that the destination you're pursuing was never really yours to reach. The sad truth is that you won't get there if you lie to yourself. If you don't believe that you can get there, you probably won't. So you have to chase the destination, but not without realism about what the journey to get there requires of you. We are allowed to ditch the act without losing sight of the ambition or the vision. We are able to shed representations that were never true about us to begin with. But sometimes we also have to shed the people who want us to stay exactly where we are. Now, the third lie, and this one is one I'm all too familiar with. No one is helping me. No one is helping me get to where I want to go. No one is helping me solve this problem. This is the one that's turned struggle into isolation and isolation into victimhood. It looks around the room for the person who's going to rescue you from the situation, fix the situation, fund the situation, or help you believe in whatever it is you're trying to do. That is not the answer when you have to help you, because you are your responsibility. It's the oxygen mask principle, the idea that you can put yourself first, not out of selfishness, but out of necessity. Because, let's be honest, you can't hold space for anyone else's breakdown, team, clients, family, until you've ensured that you yourself can continue to breathe freely. See, the work to repair that Sophie was talking about earlier is that gap between what's actually going on and what you think is going on with you. So act curiously, privately, carefully, wisely, and ideally without an audience. Now, I don't know who this is for today, but if this is you, I want to encourage you to go again, to keep iterating in the spaces that you find yourself, the ones that nobody sees, the ones where you have to stay honest with yourself about where you are whilst moving towards where you're going. That quiet confidence and careful conviction isn't the absence of chaos. It's what you build when you stop spending energy on things that are not true, when you stop apologizing for what's left undone, when you stop performing for people who were never safe witnesses to your processes anyway. That gap isn't closed by working harder. I've learned that the hard way. But it is closed by trusting yourself enough to stop. Because when you disrupt those feet that are pedaling under the water in order to repair your relationship with the truth and decide quietly and without fanfare to believe what is true, you will be free. So, I want to leave you with one final question. Not to answer out loud, not to perform an answer to, but to sit with honestly in the same way you asked yourself the questions at the beginning. What do you want your obituary to say about you? Again, probably not what's on your LinkedIn bio. Probably not how much revenue your company made last year. We probably really don't care about our job title for that. But probably we do care about the truth of your character and the achievements worth recording, because they are what's going to show what made the paddling, the shedding, the pivots, and the iterations worth it. Whatever your answer is, that's you becoming the swan. That's your North Star. That's the reminder that you were never an ugly duckling. You're not still a cygnet. You are already a swan. And deep down, you know that the only person that never believed that was you. Thank you.